Let me ask you something nobody else dares to ask. Have you ever lost something? Not because you weren't smart enough, not because you weren't talented, but because, in the moment that mattered most, your voice failed you. You knew what to say. You felt it inside, but the words just wouldn't come out. Not in English, not with confidence, not when it counted. Maybe it was an interview, a visa appointment, a meeting where they waited for you to speak, and you froze. People think losing a job is about rejection, but the real pain, the pain that keeps you up at night, is knowing, I could have done better if I had just spoken up. That kind of moment doesn't just hurt. It rewrites you, and what happens next depends on one decision. Do you shrink or do you rebuild? Because sometimes the job you lose is exactly what makes you become the person who'll never lose that kind of opportunity again. He still remembers the exact moment, not because of what was said, but because of how it felt. 3 faces on a Zoom screen, eyes full of expectation, voices too fast to follow. He nodded politely, pretending to understand, while inside, everything collapsed. His dream job was right there, but his English wasn't. And yet what haunted him wasn't the grammar. It was the silence, the way he froze when it mattered most. There was one question, just one. Tell us about yourself. Simple. Predictable. He had rehearsed it 100 times, but that day nothing came out right. I am, software, many projects, good, very good. His voice cracked under the weight of shame, not because he didn't know the answer, but because the words refused to come when the pressure arrived. Say this out loud. I froze, and I hated myself for it. Later, when he walked outside, he told himself it didn't matter. But it did. It mattered more than he wanted to admit. Not because of the job, but because of what it revealed. That night he looked in the mirror and whispered the sentence that hurt the most. I was never really preparing. I was just avoiding. And that truth hit harder than the rejection. He always believed English was optional, something nice to have, like a gym membership or a Netflix subscription. But in reality, it was the gatekeeper to every room he wanted to walk into. He kept saying, I'll speak when I'm ready. But now he saw it. That fear of looking stupid cost him something irreplaceable. Say this, I avoided speaking and I paid the price. The worst part wasn't losing the opportunity. It was realizing he had been lying to himself for years, hiding behind excuses like, I don't need English right now. He treated his dreams like decorations, something he could hang on the wall and admire, but never touch. What about you? What is one dream you've been calling optional because fear feels safer? He sat in silence for hours that night, going over every word he didn't say, every sentence he could have spoken. But this time, something changed. He didn't feel anger. He felt awakening. He whispered one clear sentence to himself. I didn't lose because of English. I lost because I was still clinging to the person I used to be. That sentence became the beginning of everything. He realized something powerful. English isn't just a language. It's an identity upgrade. The version of him that refused to speak, that waited for perfection, that hid behind textbooks, that version had to go. Because if he didn't outgrow that identity, he would keep losing. Not just jobs, but parts of himself. Say this out loud. I am no longer the person who waits. That moment of loss became a mirror, and mirrors are cruel, but they never lie. In that reflection, he saw someone who was finally ready to become more. Not perfect, not fluent, just honest. He picked up his phone, pressed record, and said the sentence that would become his first step toward rebirth. I'm not fluent yet, but I'm done being silent. And what happened next? Well, that's where most people give up. But he didn't. If you want to stay exactly where you are, here's the fastest way to do it. Keep learning English in silence. Watch videos, read books, take notes. But never open your mouth. Never speak out loud. Never let the words live in your voice. That's what I did for years. I looked like I was learning, but in reality, I was hiding. And if you keep hiding, you're not studying. You're postponing your future. If you want fear to control your story, here's what you should do. Wait until you feel ready. Wait for the perfect sentence. Wait until your accent disappears. Wait for confidence to knock on your door. I did that, and it was a trap. Confidence never comes first. Courage does. That's why the first step is speaking when you still feel awkward. Try this today. Stand in your room and talk about your morning, even if it feels ridiculous. If you want to repeat the mistake that broke me, say these words often. One day I'll practice. One day I'll be fluent. One day I'll take it seriously. But here's the brutal truth. The calendar doesn't care about your dreams. Time doesn't slow down just because you're scared. You don't need another one day. You need today. Open your calendar and schedule one simple speaking ritual for tonight. 10 minutes, that's it, but make it real. If you want to keep feeling stuck, keep believing that fluency is a gift other people are born with, that some people are just good at languages, that you're too old, too tired, too busy. I believed that too, until I realized fluency is not a gift. It's a habit, one that you build, one that you repeat. Start with one micro habit right now. Record a 30-second voice note. Say one sentence about your dream. Say it like it matters. If you want to keep your dream far away, make the mistake I made. Separate English from your real life. I treated English like homework, but life isn't a classroom. It's messy, emotional, fast. So make English part of your daily rhythm. Talk while cooking. Speak while walking. Narrate your morning routine. Think in English while you shower. Don't wait for study time. Turn your day into your practice. If you want to stay in the cycle of regret, do this. Compare yourself to everyone else. Listen to fluent speakers and tell yourself, I'll never sound like that. That comparison almost made me quit. But here's what I learned. Your job isn't to sound like them. It's to become you in English. Authentic, honest, real. Choose one sentence you hear from a native speaker today and repeat it, not perfectly, but with presence. If you want to make your fear permanent, keep trying to learn without making mistakes. I spent months trying to avoid saying the wrong thing, but every day I avoided mistakes, I also avoided growth. Do this instead. Make a mistake on purpose. Yes, on purpose. Say something funny, awkward, broken, and smile. That's how you build emotional strength in English. That's how you tell your brain, we're not afraid anymore. If you want another year to pass without progress, just keep doing what feels safe. That's how I wasted my chance. That's how I let fear become my routine. But you don't have to follow my path. You can break it. You can begin a new pattern. One where speaking becomes your habit, not your hope. But first you need to see clearly what looks like hesitation and is actually a decision. So the question is, what will you decide next? The Uber ride was quiet. Too quiet. No music, no small talk. Just the low hum of the engine and the sound of his own thoughts crashing into each other. He didn't cry because of the rejection. He cried because he knew. He knew he could have done better. That interview wasn't just hard. It was a mirror, one that showed him the cost of his silence, the price of postponing what he said he wanted. As he stared out the window, something shifted. No drama, no declarations, just one sentence that echoed in his chest. Never again. And that became the contract he made with himself. No more waiting to feel ready. No more passive learning. From that day, everything changed. Not overnight, but the commitment was real. And it started with that quiet promise. Never again. The first month felt awkward. Every night after work, he sat at his desk. One page, one paragraph, one recording. That was the rule. No skipping, no shortcuts. He used his phone to record himself reading English dialogues. He shadowed native speakers until his mouth stopped resisting. He repeated one sentence 10 times until it felt like breathing. That routine didn't feel magical. It felt mundane, but it was building something strong underneath. He didn't tell anyone. No motivational posts, no dramatic updates, just quiet progress. Slowly, he started to hear himself differently. His voice in English didn't sound like a stranger anymore. And as the days turned into weeks and weeks into months, something strange happened. The fear began to shrink. He wasn't waiting for fluency, he was becoming it, one repetition at a time. After 12 months, the same company opened a new position. This time, he didn't hesitate. He applied again, and when the interview came, he didn't feel nervous. Not because he felt perfect, but because he felt prepared. They asked, "Tell us about yourself," and he did, clearly, calmly, with pauses that felt like confidence. He didn't just answer their questions, he owned the room. That moment, sitting in front of the same type of screen, hearing the same kind of questions, felt like a movie playing in reverse. The first time, he was frozen. This time, he flowed. And when they said, "We'll be in touch," he already knew the result, because he had already won long before that call. The real victory wasn't getting the job. It was becoming the version of himself that no longer ran from the moment. What most people didn't see were the nights he spoke to himself in broken English, whispering full paragraphs just to train his fluency. They didn't hear the voice notes he recorded every morning on his way to work. They didn't witness the hundreds of tiny acts of practice that rewired his identity. That's what discipline looks like. Invisible, unimpressive, until it changes everything. He once lost his dream job because of English, but that loss gave birth to something far more important, a self he could finally be proud of, not because he became perfect, but because he stopped being afraid. He stopped apologizing for starting small. And the next time life tested him, he didn't flinch, because he had built more than skills. He had built readiness. And readiness, unlike fear, shows up on time. Loss doesn't destroy you, it reveals you. That's what psychology teaches us. When a dream slips away, most people think it's the end, but it's actually a diagnosis. Your habits, your fears, your comfort zones, they all get exposed in the light of disappointment. That job you didn't get, that opportunity you lost, it wasn't a punishment, it was feedback. Brutal, yes, but honest. Ask yourself right now, what habit betrayed you? Say it in English. Name it. Your brain wants to protect you. That's why it tells you that understanding English is enough. But here's the trap, the illusion of competence. You feel smart because you understand what people say, but the moment you have to speak, your brain hesitates. That's not a lack of talent. It's a mismatch between input and output. You know it in theory, but you haven't trained your voice to match your mind. So today, speak out loud for 5 minutes. No filter, no translation. There's another hidden enemy, ego paralysis. Adults hate looking like beginners. We don't want to feel clumsy or sound stupid, so we wait. We hide, we study in silence, and that silence becomes a prison. It feels safe, but it's stealing your growth. The only way out is to break the pattern. Do this. Make one intentional mistake today. Speak badly on purpose. Say a weird sentence, be awkward, and survive it. That's how you reclaim your freedom. Here's something neuroscience shows us. Your brain rewires faster after emotional impact. That moment of failure, that sting of embarrassment, it opens a window, a plasticity window. Your mind is ready to adapt, but only if you act. Don't wait for the pain to fade. Use it. Take one phrase connected to your dream job. Memorize it. Practice it. Make it your anchor. Because when your emotion meets repetition, learning becomes transformation. Many learners ask, why can't I remember what I studied? The answer is simple. Memory follows attention and emotion. You didn't just forget. You never attached meaning. The brain keeps what feels alive, so next time you learn a phrase, connect it to your personal life. Make it matter. Example, instead of saying, I want to learn English, say, I want to speak English so I never lose another opportunity again. That's the kind of sentence your brain remembers. We often think failure equals weakness, but in truth, failure exposes growth gaps. You're not broken, you're just underdeveloped in certain areas. Think about this like a physical injury. If your knee hurts when you run, it's not the run that's the problem. It's the weakness you hadn't noticed until now. Loss works the same way. It points to the place in your life that needs strengthening. And English? It's one of those muscles. There's power in naming what held you back. Maybe it was procrastination, maybe perfectionism, maybe fear of judgment. Whatever it was, give it a name, because once you name it, you can change it. One simple journaling exercise. Write one English sentence that describes the part of you that blocked your progress, then write the opposite version. The identity you're building now, say it out loud, own it. Loss doesn't mean you're behind. It means you've reached the edge of who you used to be, and now you're being asked to grow. That's not a punishment, it's an invitation, but only if you listen, because if you don't pay attention, you'll repeat the pattern. And if you repeat the pattern, the dream becomes even harder to reach next time. The question is, are you ready to grow into the person that dream was waiting for? Did you enjoy the content and it made a difference for you? Click on Super Thanks and support our work. Silence feels safe until it ruins something you can't replace. That day when he smiled and pretended everything was okay, even though his words didn't come, that silence became a scar. He had so much to say, but nothing came out. And when the call ended, the pain wasn't just about the job. It was about everything he didn't say when it mattered. Try this. Say out loud right now, "I won't stay silent anymore." He thought comfort would protect him. Instead, it kept him small, watching English videos at night without speaking, repeating the same daily routine without challenge. Comfort felt good until it became a slow poison, one that made him watch other people live the life he was dreaming of. Want to change that? Do one uncomfortable English task today. Record your voice. Post one sentence online. Read a paragraph aloud with emotion. Pretending is exhausting, and he had mastered the art of pretending. Pretending he didn't care. Pretending English wasn't important. Pretending that next time would come. But inside, he knew. He was lying to himself. He said he wanted fluency, but avoided every real step that would bring it closer. Right now, say one brutal truth in English. Not for anyone else, just for yourself. Name what you've been avoiding. When he hit his lowest point, something unexpected happened. The pain became fuel. The shame of that interview became a fire. Every moment of regret whispered the same message. This happened for a reason, but not the reason you think. It wasn't punishment. It was a push, a warning, a gift in disguise. He started using that pain as his power. Think about one painful moment from your past and say, "That pain is now my teacher." He used to envy fluent speakers. Now he studies them. He mimics their sounds, their rhythm, their confidence. Not because he wants to be someone else, but because he's building the version of himself he once ran from. He doesn't chase perfection anymore. He chases growth. Every sentence spoken is a win. Every mistake a sign of movement. Today, speak one sentence like it's your first step to freedom. His mornings changed. No more scrolling, no more excuses. Just repetition, ritual, shadowing podcasts, reading aloud, speaking while walking. He turned his pain into a practice. That's the real lesson. Motivation fades, but discipline keeps you alive when nothing else works. If you want to become fluent, create one ritual that begins before your day does, even 10 minutes. But let it be sacred. He stopped apologizing for starting late, or for sounding awkward, or for needing more time. That version of him, the one who waited for approval, he's gone. Replaced by someone who shows up no matter what. Someone who speaks, even with a shaky voice. He understood now. Fluency isn't earned in perfect moments. It's built in the messy ones, where you keep going, even when no one's watching. Losing that job wasn't the ending. It was the tuition he paid for staying silent too long, the price of choosing fear over action. And now he speaks not just to practice, but to never forget who he used to be. Because remembering your pain isn't weakness, it's wisdom. And that wisdom is what he carried into every new opportunity after that. Every word became a mirror, not just of what he wanted to say, but of who he wanted to become. He didn't realize it at first, But each sentence spoken in English was shaping something bigger than vocabulary. It was shaping identity. When he said, "I'm learning," he wasn't just talking about grammar. He was admitting to the world, "I'm not staying the same." Choose one new English word today that reflects your future self. Learn it like it matters. The voice that once felt foreign became his own therapy. Speaking out loud stopped being an exercise. It became release, a way to breathe through the fear, a way to meet himself in a new language without judgment. The more he spoke, the less afraid he became, because exposure replaced fear. Today, try this. Speak for 40 seconds, non-stop. Talk about your dream, your morning, your fear. Just speak. Even if it's messy, every sentence pushed against old limits. Each time he said something uncomfortable, his brain rewired a little more. It was no longer about speaking well, it was about breaking internal walls. The quiet belief that said, "You're not capable." That belief had lived inside him for too long. And English became the sledgehammer. Say one sentence that scares you today. Even if your voice shakes. He used to worry about his accent. Now he wears it like a scar. Not something to be ashamed of, but something he earned. Because fluency isn't about sounding like someone else. It's about sounding like you with confidence. He stopped hiding. He started speaking louder. Try this now. Say one full English sentence. Loud. Feel it in your chest. Let it echo through your body. His notebooks are filled with phrases, but they read like a journal, not just language practice, but pieces of his emotional rebirth. I am learning. I'm not afraid anymore. This is not the end. These were more than sentences. They were affirmations dressed as practice. If you want to make your learning sacred, choose 5 English phrases that speak to your transformation and repeat them every morning. Some days were harder than others. On those days, English became his anchor. When his mind spiraled into doubt, he'd grab his phone and record his voice. Not to post, not to impress, just to remember, I'm still building. That's the secret most people miss. You don't speak because you're ready. You speak because you want to heal. Today, record one sentence that reminds you of your strength. What changed wasn't just his grammar. It was his rhythm, his tempo, the way he carried himself. English rewired his posture, his tone, even his thoughts. Slowly, he stopped translating. He started thinking in English. And with that shift came something deeper. Peace, clarity, focus. He was no longer a man learning a language. He was a man rebuilding his voice. And that's why now, when people ask why he speaks English with such intensity, he smiles. Because they don't see the scars. They don't know the weight those words once carried. They just hear fluency. But he knows. He knows that every phrase was a piece of the bridge that brought him back to himself. Something changes in a person when they lose something precious. At first, they collapse. But if they decide to rise, truly rise, something dangerous awakens. They stop negotiating with their laziness. They stop explaining their fear. He became that kind of person, not overnight, but over 365 quiet days of non-negotiable focus. Want to feel that shift? Set one English habit today that is not optional. Each study session became a brick. At first, it looked small, unimportant. Just another repetition, another speaking drill, another journal entry. But over time, those tiny acts rebuilt the part of him that the interview had shattered, his self-trust. He ended every session with one sentence out loud, I'm rebuilding. If you want to feel that power, speak it now. Whisper it if you have to, but mean it. What most people call talent is just consistency over time. He didn't learn 10,000 words, he mastered 50, then used them every day. He didn't chase complexity, he chased repetition. Slowly, his brain stopped hesitating. His mouth responded before fear had time to catch up. That's how skill compounds. Today, track one 7-day streak. Even if it's simple, one sentence one day, then repeat. People began to notice, not because he posted his progress, but because he became his progress. His energy changed, his tone changed, the way he walked into rooms changed. Those who once doubted him, now they didn't know what to say, confused by the calm, by the clarity, by the confidence. They used to know who he was. Now they whispered, "He's different." And he smiled, because they weren't supposed to recognize him. He used to try to convince people with explanations. Now he lets his discipline speak. His fluency isn't loud. It's quiet, steady, undeniable. And that's what transformation looks like. Not performance, but presence. Want to step into that version of yourself? Start behaving like the person your past wouldn't recognize. Write one sentence in English today that reflects that version. Say it like it's already true. He kept things simple. No magic apps, no complicated routines. Just one daily speaking task, one listening habit and one review ritual. He created his own English gym. Right in his kitchen, his walk to work, his late-night journaling. That's the key. Fluency lives in your daily rhythm, not in your motivation. Design yours, not for hype, but for survival. He tracked wins, quiet ones, like finishing a shadowing exercise without stopping or recording a sentence without stuttering. He celebrated those wins, wrote them down. And slowly, his identity shifted. No longer someone who wants to speak English. He is someone who speaks English. Every day, no permission, no waiting, no doubt, just presence. The beauty of long-term focus is this. Eventually, your past self becomes your greatest reason to keep going. Not because you hate that version, but because you love the one you're becoming. Every mistake, every missed chance, every silent moment, now they're fuel. And the next time fear knocks, he doesn't run. He remembers who he was, and he answers with who he's now becoming. Why did this happen to me? That was the first question that echoed through his mind after the rejection, not in anger, but in confusion. He had worked so hard, he was so close, but now, nothing. At first he blamed luck, then life, but eventually a deeper truth surfaced. This happened so I could face the part of me that wasn't ready. Say that out loud. This happened so I can become who I'm meant to be. And for a while he carried the label of failure. But one night something shifted. He sat in silence and asked himself, who am I becoming? And the answer was clear. Not a victim, not someone stuck in regret, but someone in motion, a builder, a creator, a voice that no longer whispers, but speaks. Try this. Describe your future role in English. Say it as if you already live inside that version of yourself. The question became, what do I want now? Not what other people expect. Not what looks good on paper, but what truly lights me up. And suddenly, the answer wasn't a job title. It was a life built on skill, not fear. A life where fluency wasn't just about English, but about freedom. Right now, speak your new dream job sentence out loud. Something real, something bold, something that scares you just a little. What's next? That question felt terrifying, until it didn't. Because next didn't mean starting over. It meant starting stronger, with new awareness, new tools, and a new relationship with challenge. He no longer feared the future, because he was building it brick by brick, word by word. His fluency was no longer a goal, it was a weapon, a symbol, a declaration. Record your own comeback sentence now, even if it's messy. He understood something most people never do. Your dream is not something you achieve. It's something you grow into. Every failure, every painful moment is a test, asking you, will you expand or will you shrink? And this time, he chose to expand. The job he lost. It wasn't the end. It was the path to the one he actually deserved. He no longer waits for approval. He speaks his truth in a second language. That's not weakness, that's mastery. Because courage is not being fluent. Courage is speaking before fluency arrives. It's saying, this is who I am becoming, whether you understand me or not. That is the soul of transformation. That is power. He still remembers that first interview, and he's grateful for it. Grateful for the silence, the embarrassment, the heartbreak. because without it he would have stayed small. Without it, he would have never seen the identity he needed to outgrow. Sometimes life has to take something from you, to give you back to yourself. And so now, when he looks in the mirror, he no longer sees the man who lost something. He sees the man who earned something. Resilience, confidence, language, voice, identity. And when the next opportunity comes, he won't just be ready, he'll be worthy. You didn't come here just to improve your English. You came here because something inside you is tired of missing out. Tired of staying silent, tired of watching your life pass in subtitles, tired of feeling like fluency is always one step ahead. But maybe now you see the truth. English isn't the problem. Your silence is. Your waiting is. Your old identity, the one that plays small, is. So let me ask you, what dream have you been postponing just because you're afraid to speak up? What version of yourself have you been avoiding just because it's uncomfortable to sound imperfect? You already know this. The life you want won't wait for you to feel ready. It will only respond when you start acting like you deserve it. And fluency? It's not a destination. It's a daily decision. English isn't just a language. It's a mirror. It shows you your habits. It shows you your fears. And if you let it, it can also show you your power. So tell me in the comments, what was your never again moment? What's the one sentence you need to speak today, even if it scares you? And if this story spoke to your heart, if it reminded you of your strength, then subscribe, like this video, turn on notifications, because every week we'll be here helping you learn English through stories that don't just teach, they transform.